People want us to think that we are wrong and they are right. They call this gaslighting, which is pressure to think that we're the crazy ones and others are right. Gaslighting has now become part of the woke culture. It's so prevalent, in fact, that the Merriam-Webster Dictionary designated it the word of the year for 2022. We must understand this so we don't conform to what an unbelieving world tells us to believe and how it tells us to live. And that quote is from the introduction to this book, Spirit-Led Living in an Upside-Down World. I will be doing a teaching on this in a future video. Today's video is part 2 of my last video titled Being Wise Among Wolves, the Gray Rock Method. If you haven't watched that video, you can find it on my self-empowerment playlist on YouTube. The Gray Rock Method is a technique that will empower you to stand against bullies and walk away victorious. It's a really good video to share with your kids. Gaslighting is an epidemic in today's culture. You will not escape it. What is it? It is a form of emotional abuse and mental manipulation that will leave you questioning your own reality and have you wondering if you're the one in the wrong during a conflict. When you're being gaslit, you will question your perception of what happened or how you remember what happened. And this leads to confusion, anxiety, and wondering if you can trust yourself. The goal of a gaslighter is to gain control over you by breaking down your trust in yourself and increasing your trust and dependence on your abuser. The term gaslighting comes from the 1944 film titled Gaslight, in which a husband manipulates his wife into believing that she has a mental illness. Gaslighting can happen with family, friends, co-workers, and acquaintances. The gaslighter will tell you that you are overreacting, even when you have a reasonable and valid concern. They will belittle, degrade, and invalidate your feelings. They will say that you are too sensitive when they say or do something rude and hurtful to you. And when you call out their bad behavior, they will deny what they did or pretend that they don't remember what they did. A gaslighter takes no responsibility for their hurtful words or actions. I have an example of gaslighting, something that I have experienced. This is another workplace example. I have a lot of those. So this person was very controlling in the work environment. She demanded that things be done a certain way, her way. And she enjoyed having that control over people. She would clap to get your attention if you were doing something she didn't like. She would pound on a table if you didn't move fast enough. And before I quit that job, I shared with one of my coworkers that the things she does are things people do to get a dog's attention. Come on, Barkley, let's go for a walk. Oh, I'm so glad that I can laugh about it now. But at the time, I felt very degraded and abused by the way that she ordered me around. And she was constantly changing her mind about my assignments, so I felt like a spinning top on most days. And when I called her out on these things, she told me that I'm too sensitive and need to toughen up. And then the next time I called her out, she'd say, I don't remember saying that. I don't remember doing that. This is classic gaslighting. And at the time, I didn't realize that I was being emotionally abused. And after a while, I gave up calling her out on these things because it was a complete waste of time. She would not own up to anything. I did my best to tolerate it because, good jobs are hard to find. But the day that she pounded on the back of my chair while I was sitting in it was the day that I had had enough. I reached my limit. Blaming their behavior on other people or other things is a strategy that these emotional abusers use to protect themselves. They will ignore the real problem and deflect blame on you. You really need to get some help. You need some counseling. Suddenly the problem becomes your mental health. Or you might hear this one. Oh, I've really been so stressed out lately. I've been going through so much. Now the problem is all the things that they're going through. And they will probably give you a list. They want to accuse you of having no compassion for them. So the original problem disappears, and now you're the bad guy for not understanding all the things they're going through. Remember this truth. The stress that a person is going through, no matter how bad, that is never an excuse. It is never permission to be inconsiderate, dismissive, or insulting. God does not see their stress as an excuse, and neither should you. A gaslighter will use anything that they can come up with to invalidate your pain and your feelings. And they do this by putting the focus on their own pain and their own feelings as if their feelings and pain is much more significant than yours. It's a guilt trip. They want to guilt you into backing off and feeling bad for them. And another way to do that is to accuse you of being unforgiving. You really need to stop rehashing this. Why can't you just let it go? I said I'm sorry, but I haven't heard anything from you about forgiveness. Aren't Christians supposed to forgive? There's a big difference between forgiveness and trust. You can forgive someone, but still not trust that person. A gaslighter will use your unforgiveness as a way to make you the problem. And this is another way of guilting you into letting it go and forgetting it happened. But if you're having a trust issue with this person, you can't let it go, and you shouldn't let it go because you need to guard your heart. You need to guard your heart from future abuse. And that will certainly happen if your abuser can't come clean and admit the wrong that was done. It is impossible to trust someone who can't admit when they hurt you. If trust is the real problem, don't let them come at you with their guilt trip about your unforgiveness. And if you are having a problem with forgiveness, you might want to check out my video titled Forgiveness, Trust, Anger, and Apologies. It is my most popular video right now. I think it's something a lot of people can relate to. So if you're having a forgiveness problem, you're not alone. And watching that video might help you to reach a point of forgiveness. There's also some books mentioned in that video that could be very helpful. Another way that a gaslighter will deny your reality is to invalidate the hurtful experience that you went through. They might defend the bully, say something like, I didn't see anything wrong with what she did. She seemed normal to me. Or they might say something like, oh, she's so sweet. You must have misunderstood her intentions. You must be seeing that situation all wrong. She's such a sweetheart. Here's an important truth to remember as well. Just because you didn't see it or experience it, that doesn't mean it's not true, and that doesn't mean it didn't happen. We should always validate what a person went through, what they experienced. We should always try to understand their hurts and feelings. That's what Jesus did, and we should follow his example. The last point, we all make mistakes in our relationships when dealing with conflict. I myself have used the I was really stressed out line. I've used that. So we can't label people as gaslighters just because they say some of the things that I mentioned. Now, when I told this person that I was stressed out at the time, I also included an apology for my bad behavior while I was stressed. But we all say things that deflect blame, and we all say things that might rescue us from looking bad when we screw up. But when those words and actions are used as a form of manipulation and control, then that person is clearly gaslighting you, and they deserve to be called what they are, a gaslighter. I hope this helped you to understand the ways in which you can be manipulated by people. When you're able to realize what's happening, it allows you to be better able to protect yourself from that emotional abuse. I just want to say I very much appreciate the likes on these videos. It helps them to be seen on YouTube, so if you got something out of this, please like it so you can, like it forward to someone else who might get something out of the content. And by subscribing to my YouTube channel and clicking the notification bell, you will get a notice on your phone when my next video comes out. So, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.